What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Monday, June 22nd, 2020. Start of a brand new week of insanity here, coming down to the end of the month and the 4th of July, and we're already stocking up on our fireworks and all of that stuff. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about today, and as usual, we're going to do news for 1 hour, and then in hour number 2, we'll open up the phone lines, and you can get on in with your comments, questions, opinions, and observations about what's going on. So let's get right on into it here. Starting with the news. What a violent weekend it's been. Oh my goodness, everywhere. I mean, it's like the whole country's going crazy. And you know, I have to make a comment. This is not really making Black Lives Matter or Antifa look good. Because everywhere that they're sort of claiming autonomous control of the areas, things are going really, really bad. They're talking about warlords and you know, words that we're not used to hearing about in the streets of the United States of America. Anyway, over the weekend, Donald Trump had his rally in Tulsa. And of course, the media is making a big deal over the fact that not as many people showed up as were being expected. Well, apparently, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, along with hundreds of Twitter users, they're claiming that they got a mass movement going on TikTok and K-pop, basically reserving thousands of tickets with no intention of showing up. So they had all these reserved tickets that nobody used. And of course, for every reserved ticket not being used, there's an empty seat. And so they're saying that about maybe 7,000 people were in that stadium, but in all probability, a lot more would have been if it weren't for all the dirty tricks that are going on. But the liberals are out there saying, see, Trump doesn't have the visibility that he used to. He doesn't have the support. You know, boo Donald Trump, boo Donald Trump. The problem is, as Michael Moore points out, there is no groundswell of love, if you will, for Joe Biden. So he'd be lucky to get 6,000 to begin with. But again, this is shaping up to be one of the dirtiest campaigns in U.S. history. So, and I don't think they should be bragging about it. I mean, they sort of shot their bolt. I mean, the Trump campaign, if they're paying attention, knows what happened. And they were already making plans to find some way to make sure that if they give out a registration for a ticket, that it actually, you know, gets used. Maybe you ought to just sell the tickets flat out. It's one thing to reserve a ticket and not show up and buy it. It's quite another to buy the ticket and then not show up and use it. So Donald Trump is saying thugs in Tulsa stopped thousands attending his comeback rally, praises the warriors in the arena who braved coronavirus fears, tears into the Seattle anarchists, and calls Joe Biden's career 4 decades of calamity. This is definitely getting very intense out there. Okay, the family of Tom Petty has issued a cease and desist order to Trump's campaign after the Tulsa rally. Apparently, the president used the song "I Won't Back Down" to further a campaign. To further his campaign, and the family is saying, no, we don't agree with his use of that song. Well, it's a complex issue because if the song is out there and available for license, and you pay the license fee, you're allowed to use it, just the way the rules are. Okay. So, and then there's the controversy over U.S. Attorney Berman. Apparently, Trump fired Jeff Berman Saturday. And it all began, basically Berman was investigating Donald Trump and his family, found nothing, of course, and Trump suggested that it was time for him to step down and even issued a White House statement congratulating him and, you know, years of service and blah, blah, blah. And Jeffrey Berman turned around and said, no, I'm not leaving. So Trump said, okay, you're fired. And so now everybody's out there screaming, there's got to be an investigation. There's got to be an investigation. No, there's no need for an investigation for the very simple reason that everybody working in the government works at the pleasure of the President of the United States of America. And if he wants to fire you, he can fire you. He doesn't have to justify his decision. He is the boss. Okay. Now, getting on back to all these rallies and autonomous zones and everything going on out there. Do you realize how crazy it looks to the rest of the world that we're tearing our nation apart over crimes that happened 200 years ago, where the perpetrators of those dead before all of us were even born? At the same time, we ignore the crimes committed by the United States of America against countries like Iraq and Libya and Syria. The fact that they're actually admitting we lost in Syria now, should be paying attention to that. So ordinary people are being encouraged to feel guilty over bad things that happened long before they were born, in their desperate attempt to ignore the things that are happening now. See, here's the way it works. I don't approve of slavery. Okay, but there's nothing that I can do about what happened in the years leading up to the Civil War. I wasn't around at that time, and I refuse to accept guilt or responsibility for things outside my immediate control. That's just common sense. You know, I didn't extinct the dinosaurs. They just went their way. But we're being encouraged to sit here and feel guilty about, oh my goodness, all these things that happened 200 years ago, oh, it was horrible, we should feel guilty. No, you shouldn't. You weren't around. You're not responsible. You should be paying attention to what is happening in the here and the now that you could, in fact, influence. And I think that's a big part of what's going on with all this tearing down of the statues and everything. They know you're angry. They know you're furious at what's going on, but they want to direct your fury at a harmless target. It doesn't hurt the government if you rip down a bunch of statues, destroy your own history. They could care less. They're probably already lining up to take those spaces where the statues were for their own statues somewhere in the future. What they don't want is you turning on the Capitol and saying, it's time for a march up to Capitol Hill and pink slip all of these guys. That's what they don't want. So they're out there saying, oh, racism and Confederacy and all this other nonsense. And some of it's getting pretty silly. We're going to get into that in a little bit here. Anyway, NPR is busted framing a self-defense getaway from gun-toting protesters as a right-wing extremist attack. And I've seen a bunch of memes about this all over the net where, you know, somebody driving away to save their own lives was underneath a headline, right-wing using vehicles as weapons. I mean, that's how completely dumb, how completely propagandized the stories are coming on out of there. Okay, 2 dead and 7 wounded in shootings at North Carolina block party, where 5 more were hit by cars while running from the gunfire. Second night of shooting at Black Lives Matter vigil in Atlanta. A man was attacked by the mob for filming. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Calm down, people, really. If they don't calm down by the 4th of July, I hate to think what's going to be happening here. Apparently 10 people were shot in Minneapolis. Reports of 100 people fighting with various weapons. Not saying what the weapons are, whether they're firearms or sledgehammers or broken bottles. Eric Trump was over in Oklahoma trying to warm the crowd up ahead of his father's speech. And flanked by his wife, Laura, Eric, 36, promised his father would keep fighting for them. Eric described protesters as these animals literally taking over our cities. He also vowed to protect religious freedom and the Second Amendment. Good to hear that. But I think calling anybody animals at this particular time is not good politics. And again, I have to ask, where is Trump getting his advice for the campaign? I mean, it's nowhere near as smooth and slick and controlled as his 2016 campaign. In fact, it seems to be descending into utter chaos. And this only being the month of June, that's a bad, bad sign. We've got all the way to November to get to. There's been a second shooting in Seattle's Chop Zone, leaving one in critical condition. Happened late Sunday night in the area near Seattle's downtown that is known as the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest. And the person arrived at the hospital in a private vehicle, was in serious, serious condition. Like I said, none of this is making Antifa look good. None of this is building sympathy for Black Lives Matter. The reaction I'm hearing from people around here is, yeah, they are behaving like animals. And again, I want to remind everybody, take a look at the recent history of Zimbabwe and South Africa and see what the potential is out there. I actually saw an article the other day where somebody supposedly did a poll showing 1/3 of Americans think we're headed for a civil war. And I'd like to avoid that, obviously. But I hear so many people talking about it. I really, really, really do. Okay. Apparently, the shooting death in the autonomous zone happened just days after Seattle's Democratic mayor said, Chaz is peaceful. It's a peaceful movement. Nobody's getting hurt. Seattle police post video of Chaz Chop mob blocking cops from responding to the deadly shooting, forcing a retreat by the officers. I mean, here you have the police officers trying to get to this guy, and they were out there in the bullhorn saying, we're just trying to get to the victim. And the crowd was still pushing them back. Now, I don't agree with this Chaz Chop grabbing an autonomous zone here. I don't support the idea of warlords controlling parts of our country with each other. But at the same time, if they're going to take control of these areas, they got to take control of these areas. Apparently, Chaz warlord Raz Simone, they actually have a name for the guy, has had a meltdown because the ambulance won't enter the shooting scene without police protection. Well, who can blame the ambulance crew? And Raz, I guess you're probably finding out now that running a society, running a community, is a little more difficult than the civil government makes it look. Police Officers Guild president blasts Seattle leadership following the deadly shooting at Chaz Chop. Apparently, Michael Solon blasted Seattle's leadership on Saturday for enabling the conditions that are making it unsafe for police officers to do their job in the city. Well, at this point, I'd be calling out the MRAPs. All right, let's see. This isn't going to help either. Irami Osai Frampong, a University of Georgia graduate student and teaching assistant, recently wrote that some people may have to die before the Black communities will be made whole. So we have this guy calling for racially based killings, which I seem to recall used to be the banner of the KKK. Okay, now getting on here. Remember the situation in Wendy's a week ago? And this lady was being sought for having set fire to the Wendy's where the shooting took place. It now is coming on out that the Wendy's arsonist, whose name is Natalie White, was Rayshard Brooks' girlfriend and was working with him on this whole situation. By the way, today is the official viewing of the body, and I guess there's a huge line over there. Muhammad Ali is out there saying that his father would have said they ain't nothing but devils. And this reinforces my observation. This is all making the Black movement look bad. If you're going to get a movement going on out there, you need to understand public relations. I made a point over this last Juneteenth weekend of watching the movie Selma again about Martin Luther King. And it's a good film, and I recommend it highly. But it shows that Dr. King had a masterful touch with public relations. And he understood how you were going to have to manipulate the crowd. And it was painful for him to do it sometime. But whoever's running this right now, they don't have a clue. They really don't, and they're making all kinds of mistakes. Now, probably you're familiar with a movie called Night at the Museum, which was filmed at the New York City Museum of Natural History. And apparently, the Democratic leaders have decided they're going to remove the statue of Teddy Roosevelt at that museum, the statue that was brought to life in the movie by Robin Williams. And they're not even really clear exactly why. Trump calls the move ridiculous. I agree. It's our history. Good, bad, and indifferent, all of it together is our history, and we ought not to be just trying to shred it. Now, over in Columbus, Board of Directors vote to keep the Confederate statue. The board president says African Americans have remained dependent since slavery. In Columbus, the Mississippi County Board of Directors voted 3-2 to keep up their Confederate statue. County Board President Harry Sanders said, history is worth preserving. He is absolutely correct, because you need that history to learn from so that you don't make the same dumb mistakes over and over and over again. Now, how silly some of this is getting is illustrated by this next story. Apparently, over in San Francisco, somebody vandalized the statue of Miguel de Cervantes. Ooh, was he a slave owner? Actually, no, he was a writer. He's the guy who wrote Don Quixote, and he had nothing to do with Christopher Columbus. He's considered the best writer Spain's ever had. But oh my God, he's got to be part of this whole imperialist thing, and they want to rip his statue down. They don't even care if they've got an accurate historical basis for wanting the statues to go. It's just statues have become the target du jour. You know, we're gonna tear down Abraham Lincoln because he demeaned the slaves by freeing them, and we're gonna tear down George Washington for running distilleries, and we're gonna tear down Bob's Big Boy for fat shaming people. It's really getting ridiculous, and Donald Trump is out there slamming the unhinged mob trying to vandalize our history. Protesters have ripped down statues of Ulysses S. Grant and Francis Scott Key, who wrote our nation's anthem. That's the only thing he's really known for. Not a slave owner, not a slave keeper. He just wrote the poem from which eventually the national anthem was composed. And they want to rip his statue down. Tear down his statue! Tear down his statue! Why are we tearing down his statue? I don't know! I don't know! Tear it down! Just a frenzy is building in the streets of America, which is why I can understand that article where they're saying polls are showing 1/3 of Americans think we're headed for a civil war. Anyway, over in Thousand Oaks, California, 3 men were arrested for vandalizing a Black Lives Matter sign, while hundreds of violent BLM activists continue to rip down U.S. statues without any consequences whatsoever. Ever stop to think that maybe having those statues up there is a good thing? So people can point at them and point them out to their children and say, see that person up there? They did a bad thing, and you don't want to do what they did. Oh, why'd you build a statue to them? Well, so we can point them out, saying they did bad things. You know, this idea of erasing evil people from history means there's a power vacuum there into which future evil people can fit right on in. You know, erasing, you know, the communist leaders opens up the door to more communism. I don't agree with this absolute flat ban on Nazi history and regalia. I think it should be preserved as an object of shame and a reminder of what humans can sink to if there are no restraints like a knowledge of history. Okay, getting on back to this silliness of these things. Apparently, Eskimo pie is going to drop its derogatory name following the lead of Uncle Ben's and Aunt Jemima. It's a 100-year-old brand, and they're going to call it something else. Like, you know, we're going to wind up going back to the plain wrap products. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that, where it's just a white label with a blue stripe, and above it was like peanut butter. Pea soup was called the plain wrap concept, which, by the way, didn't really work. People identify with the branding, but we're headed that way again. You know, it's just going to be, instead of Eskimo pie, it's going to be ice cream pie or something like that. And to me, it makes it less fun. And you know, the people who were involved in this, they are of the other opinion. The family of the woman who portrayed Aunt Jemima in the 1920s is saying, please keep the name. The job made her a local hero in her Texas hometown. They don't want her history erased. So we're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the COVID-19 virus, which is starting to fade from the corporate media news in the face of all of this John Bolton's book and all the impending wars We're going to get into that a little bit later here. But scientists are now saying that the antibodies your body creates to fight the coronavirus don't last as long as they think they should. And there are two implications to that. One is it's going to make coming up with some kind of a lasting vaccine that much more difficult. And second of all, it's probably the reason why so many people who've had COVID-19 come back and test positive again. Now, that is a very scary situation where your body's immune system is not able to really react fully to this virus. It means it can come back and reinfect you over and over and over again. Now, the World Health Organization is out there saying that asymptomatic transmission of the virus is very, very rare. A lot of people have been talking about the danger of asymptomatic transmission, but World Health Organization is saying, no, it doesn't really happen. People who are getting the coronavirus are getting it from people who are showing the symptoms. Now, that is offset by this story coming from the weekend of this musician who literally blacked out on stage, had no symptoms whatsoever, but after they took him to the doctors after he came off that music stage, he tested positive for COVID-19. Now, we don't know where he got it, but he was clearly asymptomatic at the time when he passed out. So again, you start to get the feeling that not everybody really knows as much about this as they'd like to pretend. Over in China, they've culled 1.6 tons of rats bred for their meat. It's trying to crack down on the wild animal trade due to COVID-19. And this time they went after 900 bamboo rats. And an expert previously said the outbreak might be linked to the wild rodents. Now, Chinese bamboo rats have been a food source in the country for centuries. Their meat can detoxify diners' body and make them prettier, it's believed. Well, if you take a rat and you staple on a cute fuzzy tail, it's a squirrel. Britain has recorded just 15 COVID-19 deaths and the lowest daily toll since March 13th, and new cases dropped to below 1,000 for the first time since lockdown. This is obviously good news. And that's the interesting thing. Everybody's talking about a second wave coming up in the autumn, and we closed social distancing too soon and so forth. But a lot of areas are reporting increases in cases. A lot of areas are continuing to report a decline in cases. And now the CDC is saying that it may turn out that this particular virus is already burning itself out and will soon just disappear of its own accord, if you will. Meanwhile, the economy is spinning out of control. U.S. billionaires grew $584 billion richer over the last 3 months, while 45 million Americans lost their jobs. Just think about those numbers. American billionaires enlarged their wealth by $584 billion, while 45 million ordinary Americans lost their jobs. Doesn't sound like it's a wisely managed economy to me. And it turns out right now there's a coin crunch here in the United States. And they're saying people are hoarding their money and, businesses are running out of small pocket change. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. I think the explanation is a lot simpler than that. Where do you go when you have a whole bunch of change stored up? Well, you can go to the Coinstar machines, but some of those are no longer accessible because of social distancing. In our little town where we live, you go to the bank. You take your little bag of coins to the bank. They'll run it through their machine, take the total, add it to your bank account. And they've got the coins to work with, and you've got the money in your bank account. Everybody goes home happy. Unfortunately, the lobby for our bank only just reopened about a week ago. And so we waddled on down there with our little, glad bags full of coins and got them back into the system. But I don't think it's a case of people hoarding. There's no reason to hoard coins today. They're practically worthless as metal. So apparently the Federal Reserve is now rationing coins, saying that Americans are hoarding cash. I don't think so. I think the system just kind of locked up because it wasn't set up to deal with all of this isolation, social distancing. Okay, apparently Alveda King is out there saying if you're going to take down one statue, you have to take them all down. Yes, that sounds fair to me. Okay. We talked before about Jeffrey Berman, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. And apparently, when Trump was first elected, Berman made a point of investigating him and his family and friends without really seeming to have a good reason for doing it. Trump suggested that he step down, even issued a press release, and Berman said no. Trump has fired him, and now there's going to be an investigation. We'll be back after these few words. And welcome back to our show here, and we're talking about the situation surrounding former Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman, who has been fired from his job after refusing to resign by U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr, acting on, presumably, instructions from Donald Trump here. So the House Judiciary Chairman Gerald Nadler has announced his committee will be launching an investigation into what led to this firing. And again, this is about trying to get at Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the president, good, bad, or indifferent, or chaotic as the case may be. And everybody in the government serves at his pleasure. He can fire anybody he wants anytime he wants. I mean, if you're down there working at McDonald's and, you get fired, nobody launches a congressional investigation. It's understood. The boss has the right to let you go when your services are no longer required. Anyway, so the debate is continuing to rage over Bolton's Bush. Now, at this point, it's almost moot. All of the important key parts have already been leaked out. In fact, there are entire pirated copies of the book floating around the net right now. I certainly wouldn't buy it. I have no intentions of reading it. Bolton has destroyed his sense of objectivity in every interview he's done since the book started coming on out. But for those looking for confirmation of their biases against Donald Trump, I'm sure that this will be a very comforting tome to go to bed with. But the judge ruled that Bolton can publish the book despite the national security risk, saying the damage has already been done. And yeah, that certainly is very, very, very much true. Okay, so pirated editions of the memoir have appeared online. Meanwhile, as coronavirus rips through Yemen, Saudi bombs continue to fall. Great Britain, despite a recent court decision, continues to sell weapons to Saudi Arabia to drop on Yemen. And apparently last week, Saudi warplanes pounded Yemen's capital, Sana'a, in what residents called the worst airstrikes they've seen since the first years of the war. 77 airstrikes hit several provinces in North Yemen within 24 hours. According to the Houthi self-ministry and NGOs on the ground, one of the strikes hit a car traveling in the Sana'a province, killed 13 civilians, including 4 children. Everybody's spoiling for a fight here. I was expressing a concern the other day that there may be some kind of a false flag over the 4th of July weekend to just really get things going. We want World War III, and by golly, let's get it cranked up here. All righty. Apparently, another round of sanctions, ironically named Caesar Syria Civilian Protection Act, has taken effect in Syria. Through the magic of secondary sanctions, Washington will forbid everyone on earth from dealing with the Syrian regime. Even before the penalties took effect, noted the Washington Post, they've already contributed to the collapse of Syria's long, troubled economy. Thus, the law will further impoverish the Syrian people and hurt them more than their government. However, no one in Washington appears to care that national reconstruction will be further impeded. All that matters is claiming to care and claiming to have won, which they have not. Now, at this point, sanctions have become the U.S. government's go-to policy. Whatever the problem, it can be solved with sanctions. Whatever the problem, it can be solved with an economic war. This is one of the things that we should be looking at right here and now instead of obsessing about crimes that happened 200 plus years ago. Speaking of which, somebody just sent me an email saying that Yale University was named after Elihu Yale, an actual slave trader. Why is there not a nationwide outcry to change that name? Good point. Getting on back to the war zones, emphasis on the plural. Egypt and Turkey have long been on opposite sides of the raging battle for the fate of Libya, with Turkey providing major military support and backing for the UN-recognized government of national accord, meaning the junta. When they talk about a UN-recognized government, they're not talking about a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They're talking about a government being imposed. They're talking about regime change. Oh, here we go. So the situation escalated over the weekend amid a pullback of pro-Haftar forces from Tripoli after being defeated in the bid for the capital when Egypt's President Sisi announced from an airbase near the Libyan border that the Egyptian army stands ready to intervene in Libya on behalf of Haftar. Sisi declared that if GNA forces attempted to enter Haftar-controlled Sirte, pushing deeper into central Libya, this would be a red line for Egypt, forcing its intervention. Crucially, both Tripoli and its main ally, Turkey, on Sunday condemned what they called Sisi's declaration of war. Everybody wants a war. They're just waiting for a starting time. Chinese warplanes advance on Taiwan as tensions soar. For the seventh time this month, Chinese warplanes approached Taiwan's air defense identification zone on Monday in what could be a deepening phase of geopolitical turmoil and provocation between Beijing and Taipei. We could be looking at war over the Taiwan Straits, with the U.S. already committed onto the side of Taiwan. So we're looking at all these different ways we could wind up at war with China. Taiwan Straits, South China Sea, all kinds of areas over there. And I think it's a big mistake. I mean, China's a nuclear power. So apparently the People's Liberation Army Air Force flew at least one H-6 bomber and J-10 fighter jet into the air defense identification zone at the island's southwest territory. China-U.S. tensions are now ideological, and a potential conflict could be far more dangerous than the Soviet-American Cold War. That's certainly absolutely true. It would throw the entire Western Pacific into turmoil. And what a mess they've made of it. What a mess. Amid the election race, Trump may take risky steps leading to a dangerous military standoff with China in the Asia-Pacific area. Ironically, his re-election could be the only chance to avoid a new Cold War or even World War III. When future historians write the chronicles of the 21st century, they will probably flag 2020 as a turning point, marking the start of a genuine antagonism between the world's strongest powers, the U.S. and China. It would be a bad thing, and all of a sudden I'm a lot less reluctant to have left Hawaii. Okay, India has shot down a drone over Kashmir. Pakistan is planning a response, and apparently this drone was carrying weapons. They don't know who for or where it was going, but the unmanned drone was shot down by India's border security forces in Kathua district near the Pansar border outpost. All right. Videos of intense face-off between Indian and Chinese troops go viral days after deadly clashes. Over the last few days, the two Asian giants, China and India, have been involved in diplomatic talks as the situation on the border is tense following the face-off between troops from the two countries on 15 June that left 20 Indian soldiers killed, many others injured. China has not confirmed any casualties so far. So updated videos showing Indian soldiers engaged in a fierce standoff with Chinese troops, supposedly at a border area in Sikkim sector, are going viral on social media. All righty, let's see. All right, we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines a little bit early today here because we've got a caller who can't wait till hour number 2. So let's go to Dustin in New Jersey. Hello, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it. I'm not going to be around for much of the... But I got to respond to what's going on. Like, where's our leadership? I'm talking about Trump, okay? Because who put in John Bolton? Trump, right? Like
yes.
And John Bolton's writing this book, which is mostly falsehoods. Some of it ain't, some of it true. I don't know, but at the end of the day, Trump put him in, Mike. Like, I didn't put John Bolton in. Neither did you, right? Like,
Nope.
Tom didn't. Joe didn't. None of your listeners who voted for Trump put. But now Trump has put us in this situation with John Bolton. Like, what the heck are we going to do now? Like, adding on to that, you got the whole stadium thing, which a third is nobody there, which is no big deal. Nobody's wearing masks. I know people don't want to wear masks, but it's just there's no leadership at this, at this particular time with anybody. Do you see any Republicans, Democrats? Nobody is coming. Nobody's saying anything. Like, we're just as a country, we're in deep crap. Like, there's nothing going on here. There's no leadership. There's no guidance. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's no guidance to where we're going. It's all political now. The coronavirus is political.
Yes.
It's just not. There's no. I don't know. What do you? I know you were more inclined to know what's going on than I am, but what is your take on the virus? Like, antibodies work, they don't work, this works, that works. I mean, there's a lot of Donald Rumsfeld unknown unknowns, right? Like, it's just a lot of stuff we just don't know still.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stuff going on, but India, Pakistan, China, where's Trump? Like, there's like nothing going on, Mike, with him. Like, he's like all hunkered down or something. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, I think Donald Trump, in many ways, is very similar to Barack Obama. A great campaigner, can get on the stage and motivate people, but when it comes to actually doing the job, just really didn't show up. And I know a lot of people are out there trying to say, well, Obama did this and Obama did that. Obama's underlings did a lot of good things. But Obama himself, he was out there playing golf and, just being a politician. And I think Trump is more of the same here. And, it's kind of a vicious cycle. We want to find somebody who knows how to do the job, but the people who know how to do the job are usually out for their own good.
You hope for a change to make America great again. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, something like that.
Isn't that sad, though, Mike? At the end of the day, Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, and I said it before, what's changed? Where's the indictments? Where's the arrest? What's going on? Who's on first base? Who's on third base? It's just nothing going on. It's just there's a lot of political rhetoric, but at the end of the day, Mike, nothing's getting done. Where's the infrastructure bill? Has anybody talked about that?
No.
I mean, we're in almost July, Mike. There's nothing going on.
Oh, yeah, they're tearing down all the statues. They're tearing down all the Confederate flags. They're tearing down, maple syrup bottles and all of that really important work is going on right now.
Isn't that like Teddy Roosevelt? I mean, I don't know Teddy. I didn't know Teddy Roosevelt. We never knew any of these people personally.
No.
Statues, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's rice. Nobody gave a crap about any of these things until they get brought up, right? Nobody.
Yep.
Like, when you went to the store, did you say that Uncle Ben's? What a fiend. I mean, come on, man.
You look for that face. You look for that face because it was successfully linked with a product that worked. Same thing with the Aunt Jemima pancake syrup. That was a branding that succeeded and it worked. And now they just want to tear it apart because somebody somewhere doesn't like it. Well, too bad. Okay, if you don't like Aunt Jemima pancake syrup, go with one of the others. Go with one of the synthetics or the fakes like that. Okay, but you don't have a right to sit there and demand that I, surrender my experience, my life experience in the world, because you don't like it. Too bad. I really don't care what you like or don't like anymore. I'm tired of the whining.
Like, is Aunt Jemima or Uncle Ben's organic?
Let's be clean. This is a family show.
Well, I'm just serious. Like, are they really? Are they organic, or are they just like normal rice? Or Aunt Jemima? Aunt Jemima's probably got a lot of artificial flavor. It's not like Aunt Jemima is not. That's basically syrup, right?
Well, I have to
that
be honest,
pancake
I
thing?
don't really know. I haven't looked at it. I mean, I don't eat a lot of maple syrup, and what I do eat is sent to me by family up from Vermont, where it's 100% real maple syrup.
Yeah, because when I went to Maine to my aunt's house, I think I stopped. I don't remember what state it was. They had maple syrup candy drops, which are 100%, and they're sweet as heck. You only could eat one.
Yes.
But I think the log cabin and all that, that's all artificially created garbage. There is organic log cabin,
Yes.
but not the same. It's a different taste. You got to put a lot of log cabin and Aunt Jemima on to get that enough to get that flavor you would just have from a real.
Well, my philosophy
real
is
syrup.
if you can't taste the actual tree, it's a fake.
Which goes to show you, don't lick the tree too much. Mike, have a good show.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Hello, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I want to respond a little to what Dustin said. I voted for Obama the first time as well, not the second, but I voted for Trump, and I knew he was bloviating blowhard then, but he wasn't Hillary. But nevertheless, one of the things that has to be put up with the guy is that nobody has ever faced what he's faced right now.
Yes.
And let me just take this back. In my view, this is an ongoing coup. And we have, back during the 2016 election, Mike, we had Antifa beating up, brown shirting at Trump rallies, actually physical violence. Police got hurt too. All throughout the election. They lost the election. Of course, at the same time, we had Obama weaponizing the security services, national police state, the secret police, against both Bernie Sanders and Trump, trying to cover it up then when he was losing with Russiagate. So then we have the whole Russiagate undercutting of Trump that was colluded with by the press for 3.5 years. On top of that, of course, the media was on that as well. But then they had the riots for a year after the election with Antifa. Well, again, other people got hurt, delegitimizing his tenure, which hasn't been the greatest, but what might have been had this not gone on. And then we have the impeachment, of course, the Gerald Nadlers, the Rosensteins, all these guys. Chuck Schumer, where I'm going with that.
Peter, I'm going to have to put you on hold. I'm going to have to put you on hold. Do not hang up. We're going to come right back to this topic after these few words.
Well, I was saying the impeachment is also happened. Of course, turned out to be exposing Russiagate as a complete complete falsehood that was perpetrated by the media and the intelligence agencies, and of course Obama for 3.5 years. So. Then they also they turned the Me Too movement against him, not against Biden, not against Clinton, but certainly against him. To Dustin's question about who appointed Bolton, well, Sheldon Adelson appointed Bolton. But you know what? Think back on who Obama appointed: Biden, Comey, Hillary, for Christ's sake, Brennan. What's his name? Clapper. He appointed all these guys. So as bad as Trump is, and of course everybody is picked by Sheldon Adelson with Trump. Clinton. Obama put in a whole team, a whole gang of some of the worst people in the history of the country. But at any rate, so where I think that Trump is a bloviating, gutless idiot. It's hard to think what he might have been. Of course, now we have more riots, the coronavirus, and more riots and everything else by the same people who finance the Democratic Party, Antifa and Soros and all those guys. So, and there's going to be more. They're going to weaponize. The next one will be they're going to weaponize the Hispanics. They'll say DACA. They'll say the border. They'll say all that. They'll further divide us even more. And so it will just keep going like that. But nobody has had to put up with it. This is a coup. And it's a coup with, the intelligence agencies that don't want to be outed, don't want to be held responsible for Russiagate. A coup by the media, which just, is run by people who really don't want America or, frankly, European Americans to survive. And it's been ongoing. It's been ongoing for 4 years. The place is ungovernable. The parties, won't talk to each other, can't get anything done. The states, we have, the sanctuary cities and Chaz and sanctuary states, more Chaz, refusing to cooperate on cleaning up the elections. You remember that?
I remember that.
Ungovernable. And Mike, all this is orchestrated by the media, and of course the banks are always in that. They own the media as well. But there's intelligence and design around this, and they want us at our throats and erasing our history and erasing our culture and mass immigration, which they have championed for everywhere except Israel. Look, there's design in this. This is a coup. The real enemy here are the people that own the banks, the people that own the media, and the fifth column that is running everything. It's a fifth column. So that's my take on it, Mike. I don't think there's any prayer of getting this thing answered until those people get rooted out.
Well, we just have to make sure that we don't have new evil people coming in and taking over from the old evil people. All right, Peter, we're going to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification. We got more callers waiting on the line. We'll be back with hour 2 after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're going to go to Lloyd in South Carolina. Hello, Lloyd. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. How you doing? Man, I think the last caller, was that Steve?
No, that was Peter.
Peter. Okay, Peter. Okay, I got to remember that. He's the only one that calls it like it is, man. I mean, good night. Well, not the only one, I'm sorry, but one of the ones that he just calls it like it is. So I don't even know where to begin. Just watching disinformation in action. I just can't call him BLM. I have to call him Antifa. I'm going to do what Obama did and how he couldn't say ISIS. He kept saying ISIL. So I'm just going to do it. I can't say that. I got to call him Antifa. It makes some faces turn. That's not my intent, It's just, once you become aware, it's hard to turn a blind eye. I'm not saying I'm some guru, but I mean, a spade is definitely a spade. And sleight of hand, I mean, they got bumbling Joe Biden. Is that supposed to be a distraction?
Well, I don't think that was intended to be there, but it's rapidly becoming one. I mean, his deterioration is so rapid. I think the Democrats are really stuck. They don't know what they're going to do.
He said something. He was interviewed on the, this was probably old news now, but regardless, I mean, he made a story reference about a carny and something about urine. Now, I'm sure it was probably a funny story in his head. I mean, I don't know how dementia hits everyone, but it's just, that's not a distraction. And, my people in my circle and you keep them at arm's distance, but they root for this stuff. I mean, they are drinking from the CNN fountain and all the mainstream media, and all I see when I look at the mainstream media is I hear it, obviously Revelations first, but Bill Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse. And on the writer's name was Death. That's all I see when I see the TV screens with all the same regurgitated nonsense.
Yes.
And everyone has the mask on. I'm like, dude, I feel like I am walking around literally in Orwell's 1984, and I am not the main character. So I don't know what's going to happen to me. Oh, man. But, yeah.
It's a mess.
Pretty much all I got besides the riots after the money runs out.
All right. Well, Lloyd, thank you very much for the phone call. And we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good day to you, Michael. Long time no talk. Yeah, Michael, first off, these media outlets are talking about Trump only had 7,500 people at his rally, and you had this big blonde lesbian doing this thing with TikTok and these South Korean case pops, whatever, and you have 3 other black women lesbians that are saying, well, we got Trump good on his rally. Well, you know what? Joe Biden can't even bring in 3 people to one of his rallies, and they're talking Trump only has 500. I mean, come on here. You know, this is absolutely absurd, disgusting, disgraceful. But you know what, Michael? Let's talk about this. On the news, here in the local TV, on local radio stations here in South Florida today, they're talking about MLK and the Jewish Star of David. Now, that's Star of David is a racist flag. The Palestinians want to burn it up if they get a chance. You got this guy, Martin Luther King, 3 years ago. He was a rapist, and they want to tear. They're wondering. A lot of people here in South Florida are wondering if they're going to tear that statue down of Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King supposedly raped 2 women. He was supposedly by FBI Hoover. He was a communist, avowed communist, red sympathizer. I don't know all about that, but I remember reading that story about him being a rapist. So now we're going to see what what's Black Lives Matter going to do when a bunch of people that are in control say, well, you know what, we better tear down this Martin Luther King statue along. We're going to take down the Jefferson Memorial. They want to take down the Lincoln Memorial. And I tell you, Michael, they try that, we will be in a civil war. There's no question about it in my mind. You mess with the Thomas Jefferson Memorial and you mess with that Washington monolith, you are looking at a civil war. And Trump basically said in his rally, there's hundreds of millions of people in this country with guns, and 99% of them are Republicans. So I'm telling you, they keep pushing this narrative with this George Soros, who should be arrested, and Bill Gates, that scumbag, and all their filthy money, that's dirty money. These people should be arrested. Trump or whoever the power base is got to go after these people. These people are trying to literally tear our Constitution to pieces, and that cannot be tolerated by anybody or anywhere or any time. It's got to be dealt with immediately. We cannot allow this insanity to happen anymore. You know what? We have law and order. You're going to follow the law and order. If you don't like it, get your ass to Cuba, or take your ass to China, or take your ass to Russia and see what they do. And Israel. You think Israel would allow Jerusalem and Tel Aviv to get burned down by a bunch of Arabs? Let's be real, Michael. You think they'd allow looting? They'd be really using real live ammo. They would not allow Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or Bethlehem or any of that to get burnt down into the ground. Now, who's kidding who here? We need to call a spade what it is. Now, as far as Trump said something is really powerful too. You burn an American flag, you should get a year in jail. That should always be, because these people have no respect. And you got that loudmouth Brett Favre saying, Kaepernick's going to be a hero. That Brett Favre was a jerk from the time he was punch drunk. I don't know how he won the Super Bowl. He didn't win it. He was an idiot. And the whole football NFL is going to crumble if they were all Kaepernick back in the league. I'm telling you, that's another thing it's going to see. You'll see 40-50% of viewership say screw football for a bunch of felons. No, man. This thing has gotten out of hand, and it's got to be squelched immediately. We cannot allow them to touch the Teddy Roosevelt monument going down is disgraceful, disgusting. Who is allowing that? Who are these people in charge of taking down that monument of a president who actually won the Spanish-American War? Who's allowing this? Who are these people? These people should be lined up and persecuted for what they're doing in this country. And making white. Hey, look, let me tell you, Michael. I'm going to tell you, everybody in your audience. The white man's the one who invented football. We invented baseball. We invented soccer. We invented every sport. But now the white man is a hate monger. But we're the ones that invented all the sports. We invented almost everything in the world. The light bulb, electricity. I mean, a white's got to be subjected to all this nonsense. And we're the ones that invented everything. We got man on the moon. We build rockets. Okay, who's kidding who here? In Africa, they didn't even know what the wheel was until 1885 when Livingston went in there. There's parts of Africa they didn't know what a wheel was. The wheel's been around for thousands of years. Now think about it. We need to stop this not pandering and nonsense called these BLM, which is Black Looting Matters. No, it's got to end and desist. This country is too great to be fallen like it is by a bunch of moron imbeciles, and it's got to stop. And as far as I know, a couple of your callers, Trump's done a lot more than imbecile Biden could ever do. That moron. And I guarantee he's going to probably pick that Kamala Harris, or he's going to pick this woman here in Florida. I don't know if he'll pick her, Demings or whatever, Demings. I don't think he's going to go for bottoms now because he's bottoming out. She's bottoming out with Atlanta. But, yeah, Michael, this has got to stop, man. This is, taking Roosevelt's statue down there in the Museum of History, that's absurd. That right there is the breaking point for me. I mean, I tell you right now, if they mess with the Jefferson Memorial and the Lincoln, Washington, they're probably take the Lincoln Memorial down. That's how crazy this is. And we'll see what happens. But it's going to be horrific. It's going to be something that'll make 1865 look like a joke. 1865 won't be nothing compared to what's coming down the pike if they don't stop this insanity.
I agree.
And Trump was right. And thank you, Michael. And, Trump was right. Okay, yeah, he had 7,500 people at his rally. How many people has Biden or Hillary ever had at a rally, Michael? These lying Zionist media, Bolsheviks. Michael, I was reading a story today, and it really interested me how in 1917, how the Bolsheviks were really in control by 90% of them were Zionists. 90%.
Yes.
90% of the Bolshevik Revolution was Lenin and all that were Zionists, man. And they wiped out that Tsar's family. And what they did to Russia was horrific. And that's what, I didn't realize it, Michael, but a lot of those people got repatriated. A lot of them went to Germany. And then, of course, 20 years later, Hitler comes into power. It was a fascinating story and they're doing the same thing here. Sal Lewinsky, rules for radicals. Like Peter was saying, Obama with Biden, Comey, those people are rules for radicals. Hillary Clinton, that was their book they read. That was their blueprint. The rules for radicals. Obama, Sortero sold them like a Twinkie. He was no good, but the people bought him up like a Twinkie. And another thing, Michael, the immigration situation, like Peter said, they're going to try that with the Hispanics next. I'm telling you, it's a disaster if Trump and some people in real power in the military don't stop this now. They have to stop this insanity now because it cannot go on any longer. And when they start messing with the Vietnam Memorial and you have a bunch of bikers jumping in on this, and then you have real massive, you have a massive pushback, it's going to be horrific, man. And it better stop. And I'm calling out anybody in that leftist homosexual media that, you got Maddow, you got Cooper, you got all these people in that NBC, ABC, CNN. They are nothing but demonic. They're evil. They're atheists, Michael. They don't believe in anything. There's nothing worse than an atheist. They have no belief in anything. And that's who's running these media outlets. They're atheists. They're pervs, and it's disgusting. And you know what? You got a lot of callers say, well, Trump's done a lot more for Christianity, for the Jews, for everybody. China was getting filthy rich off. At least one thing I'll say about Trump, he's exposed the Chinese like they've never been exposed. They were literally trying to use the water torture, drip, drip, drip. Take 100 years, we'll wait you up, but we're going to take you over. And Trump's exposed it now. It's exposed. These Chinese don't care, Michael, if they lose 500 million people in their population. The general of China said it 3 years ago in a USA paper. If we lose half our population, you'd be doing us a favor. And that's exactly what's going on right now. In India right now, did you see what the Chinese did to the Indians with the clubs? Michael?
Yes, go ahead.
They clubbed 38 Indian soldiers to death with barbed wire on clubs. So now the Indians issued metal pipes to their soldiers on the border with China. Lead pipes with spikes on them. You saw that article?
Yeah, I saw that article.
So to me, Michael, this has got to be nipped in the bud, because if not, and you got a lot of callers say, you want an imbecile like Biden who's going to put a black woman in there who's probably going to be a blowhard communist? And let me tell you something. This is what this is playing out to be. This is a takeover by Bolshevik, Sal Lewinsky, Mongoloids to take over our country, and it's got to stop immediately. You know what? None of these news networks on these liberal networks, like we were talking about the success of the Dragon rocket and the rocket that went off of Cape Canaveral 2 weeks ago. You think I didn't see? The only thing people were talking about was Fox News and CNN had it on for a minute. And I'm like, well, look at these hypocrites. They don't even want to talk about the greatness of space exploration. We're going to Mars. Donald Trump talks about going to Mars, man. What do these people understand? He wants to put a woman to have a kid on Mars maybe one day. I mean, it's unbelievable. And these people are attacking this guy. It's unrelenting what they've done to Trump. No other man could have probably took this insanity. I mean, but you know what? You got to fight back against these demonic atheists, because that's what they are. They're atheists. They're hate mongers. They hate everything the Constitution stands for, And to me, they can go to HE double two picks, Michael. They can go to HE double two picks with a billion two picks up their rear end, because that's what this is all about. Evil of these people is disgraceful. And all the great men. And you know what, Michael? The Confederate, let me tell you, like I told you in the past, if it wasn't for Robert E. Lee and Nathan Bedford Forrest and a lot of these Confederate men, that war would have never ended in a civil war. You can look it up. You can. I wish, Michael, one day you spend 1 hour, like that one guy months ago said, well, Michael, you should only do 1 hour of news. Well, I think you should only do a half hour of news. An hour and a half, you open up the lines. That's my opinion, but you do what you want. It's your show.
Okay.
But I tell you, for 1 hour, Michael, I would really appreciate if you would actually go back and have Claire, your wife, help you out to read the 3-4 months before Lincoln's assassinated and read what he was getting ready to do and talk about that for like 30 minutes at least, about Lincoln, what he was getting ready to do with the slavery issue after the war ended. I really appreciate that if you do that one day.
Okay.
It'll wake up a lot of minds. Michael, like I said, thank you. And, we just got to pray for the best for this country. But, I'm praying for the best, but I don't know. It's looking pretty worse every day with all these imbeciles running our left.
I agree. It makes it actually kind of hard to do this show day after day, as it's always just more of the same stuff.
Yeah, Michael. Well, you know what? I'm leaving with this thought, Michael. I think we're going to land a man on the moon soon, and I believe, which will be a great feat again, and I believe that one day, hopefully 6 years down the road, this country can come together when we land a man on Mars. And I think that's the only solution we have is maybe people got to go to another planet, because it's not looking good, man. And hopefully, I'm hoping for the best, man. Praying to God it works out. So we'll see. Anyway, Michael, thank you for taking my call. You have a wonderful day, and it's great to hear your voice, man. Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Well, the usual stuff.
So, what's on my mind right now is more with this COVID, and they're saying they found more so-called cases.
Yes.
So, sorry, I was tuning on something. The fact of the matter is, these cases they're talking about, they're mostly no symptoms. And what's happening is you've got two types of cold viruses. You've got the rhinovirus and you got the coronavirus, which is a cold. You had a cold in the last year or so, you can check positive for coronavirus.
Yes.
You get a flu shot. I never get the flu shot myself, but, unfortunately enough people do. You're going to check positive for coronavirus. They're not telling you this, of course. They're just saying, oh, more cases. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Supposed to freak out. We've got to get it together. What these people are really trying to do. They're trying to re-lock down this country. There's places around this country, like Los Angeles. I understand that clown is making people come out with a mask every time they go out of the house. Idiot governor in this state here in North Carolina is no bargain, because he's refusing to totally open up the state. I still can't go to the gym. He's talking about having a mask law for everybody. And the county I live in now does have a man anytime you're supposed to go in the store. Most stores aren't paying attention to it. Just saying,
Yes.
It's up to you. If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to. It's not being enforced. But the thing is, all this stuff is doing is making it easier for the real enemy. And that's the Gateses, the Faucis, the Burks, Bloom turds. Most of these, most of these big-time billionaires, especially the technocrats, guess what they want, Mike? They want us afraid. They want us staying in our house. And there was a very disturbing article in the Wall Street Journal. Actually, InfoWars made it clear, brought it out. And I checked it out online then, where they said this looks like the end of the humanity, something like that. Okay? They're looking forward. These people want to replace us with robots, or they think they're going to turn themselves into robots. Plain and simple. People have to understand. A few years ago, I said something like that, people sound crazy. But now it's coming out. They're admitting themselves what they want to do. There's no question about it. You've got to stop them. You've got to stop worrying about this stupid coronavirus. It doesn't. I don't know if it even did exist. or whether it wasn't something else. And it's now if it's around still, it's very weak.
Yes.
And you've got to stop with these masks. These masks are a sign of submission. That's all they are. You got that, Dustin? They don't mean anything, all right? They're not protecting you from anything. How about going in a coal mine, like you said, I think about a week ago, when you told me would I walk into a coal mine without a mask? It has nothing to do with it. This thing is being used to keep us basically locked up and isolated. And again, when they bring all this racial strife in on top of it, again, it's meant to take our attention away from the real enemy. We're not enemies of each other, really. Black people, white people, brown people, yellow people, red people. We're human beings. It's about humanity. All humanity matters. Okay? That's what this really is about. Folks, get it through your mind. This is not communism that they're pushing us either. It's not fascism. This is something even worse. This is Malthusianism. They want to kill us. They want the end of mankind, period.
Okay, well, Mark, I'm going to have to...
Folks. Thanks. Sure, no problem.
Yeah, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, Mike, you said something about this situation where people, there's protesters or whatever. What exactly they are? They're mobs, they're protesters, they're whatever they're doing. They're standing, they're blocking the street a lot.
Yes.
These days. And people, now, to me, the question is, what is the legal status of these people? Now, if it's truly an organized demonstration that they have permission for, sometimes you'll see them, they'll be marching. The cops, they have permission. The cops will actually be blocking off the other streets and protecting them. There'll be cops there to protect them.
Yes.
If they have the approval of whoever it is. But no, that's not what happens. Apparently, they'd have no approval from anybody. They just decided we're going to take over the middle of the street. Now, that's not legal. The guy in the car, correct me if I'm wrong, the guy in the car has the right of way driving down the street over a bunch of an unruly mob that just happens to think they want to take over the street, right? So I don't see how they can even charge the guy, and yet they're still trying to charge these people with murder or something like that. That's what happened with this guy in Charlottesville.
Yes.
Remember that kid? He was a 19-year-old kid, and I think they talked him into pleading guilty. You know, it's pretty easy sometimes for these cops, and probably his own defense lawyer was in on it. They got him to plead guilty so he wouldn't get the death penalty. But he did. I mean, was he actually? Was that first-degree murder? Was he really intentionally trying to murder somebody? I mean, he was driving down the street and he got scared. People were attacking his car. So I mean, the whole thing is, I don't know what I would do in that situation. I mean, you might not always know that there's no street signs marking what the area. People don't know, you know, what's going on there. If they just see a bunch of people in the street. I've never been in that situation, but I would think not try to kill him, but I just let him know that I'm driving the car, get out of my way. You know, is what I think I'd do without intentionally trying to kill anybody.
I was in that situation once in my life where I drove up into this parking area near where I lived, and there was some kind of an altercation going there, and they were throwing beer cans and stuff. And what I did was shift into reversed and back out of there. You know, I didn't try and push my way through. But that was just the spur of the moment decision I made.
Yeah, but sometimes, like with that kid in Charlottesville, there were people attacking him from behind. He was actually trapped.
That's true. And I believe firearms were involved.
That guy got life in prison. He got life in prison. You know, this reminds me of this. I think this guy was a little bit slow mentally. He's not really all completely there. I mean, not totally slow, but he was not smart for sure. It's like this situation up there in Wisconsin with the Avery, Stephen Avery and his brother Brandon, I think. Brandon
Yes.
was actually really slow, and they manipulated him into pleading guilty. And after that, he couldn't get out of it, and even though he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He thought he just was saying what they said so he can go back to school. He thought he was going to go back to school that afternoon. He thought, the poor guy. I mean, he's in prison for life now. You know, and
Yep.
they could do that to people. If you're not very smart, the cops will do that to you. But as far as this situation with these people blocking the street, there's something's got to be resolved there one way or another. Who actually is in the right? Are they in the right? They just decide. But in some of these cities like Portland and Seattle, basically the mayor gives them carte blanche to just do whatever the hell they want to at any given time. What the situation is, right?
Well, at the very least, I mean, they'd be guilty of obstruction of traffic, and you'd think the cops would be out there writing tickets on that. But you're right. There have been tremendous miscarriages of justice, and every one of them just exacerbates the situation. And you know, it's shocking to hear that 1/3 of Americans think we're headed toward a civil war, because they could well be right.
Oh no, but your other caller there, Mark from North Carolina, he's right. But this COVID deal is a big part of it too, because you know these people, after being shut down, the government's shut down, you know, and then a lot of these kids have to do something. They have so much energy, 19, 20, 22-year-old kids. They have to do something. School's closed. Even the colleges are closed. So there's a chance for, they say, what the hell? I guess we'll go tear down some statues and do all this stuff. There's nothing else the government will let you do. They're funneling you into that one activity. You're not supposed to go swimming in the Ozarks like those people. That was wrong. But the government is saying, giving them their blessing to go and do this other stuff. So they take the path of least resistance. It's not, you know, and they just go and raise hell. That's their idea. That's the only thing they can do to have fun. Okay, Mike. At this point, I think I'll let you go and turn it over to your other callers.
All right, well, thanks an awful lot, because we are coming up on a break here, and we do have another caller waiting on the line. So stay tuned, and we'll be back after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to take a call from Andy in Texas. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hey, Mike, you sound a lot better today.
Thank you.
Last time I heard you sounded a little tired. No, having said that, I think most people need to really get a grip on the fact of who Donald Trump is. He is a Zionist. If not a Jew, he's a Zionist. His entire family is involved with the Jewish Orthodox and whatnot. His daughter is supreme in this, and his daughter's husband is, oh my God, Jared Kushner. Having said that, people need to get a grip on this. This guy, everybody says this, it's cliche now, but everybody says this. He is an actor. He's from Hollywood. He's from The Apprentice show. He's from the Miss America. He's from all these different places. He's an entertainer. And he has entertained us through all of this. And he's managed to make us all think it's not his fault. He didn't do anything. The Democrats. Now, for God's sake, did he not even look into what was going on in our world before he ran for president? He could see, just like the rest of us, what was going on if he even attempted to look for it. And now he's playing the victim. We're letting Donald Trump be the victim now. I mean, if you go to InfoWars, Donald Trump's the victim. Holy crap, the Democrats are trying to kill him. Meanwhile, there's people starving in this country. There's people starving in this world. There's people with no jobs. There's people with nothing to do. And then we've got all of these people out there expressing their feelings, which are false feelings because they've been given a false sense of narrative to even go out and do what they're doing. And they're doing all this stuff simply because they've been inclined to do it. It would be so easy if somebody like Rivero or somebody like a John, oh my God, if an Alex Jones stepped up and said, this is the call to power, let's go get these sons of Diaz. You know what I'm saying? We
Yes.
can go on and take care of this business, but meanwhile, we have no direction. Right now, what's going on, this is why most, I think, your patriots are sitting at home and not doing it. Because they can see, they knew from the get-go. And a lot of people are calling on, us patriots should be out there doing this and that and the other, and they're getting impatient. But the ones who know it's not the time to step up yet. Because right now, we've got all those SJWs out there doing their thing. And we don't need to get involved in that, because that's just going to eliminate us a lot quicker. We need to be ready to go when the time is ready to go. And I think that's a God calling. And I know you're atheist, but I'll tell you, I think that's an emotional calling. It's something that people are going to feel in their hearts that it's time to roll. We got to go. We got to do this, or we're not going to have nothing. And unfortunately, we've never, ever seen a desperate point in the people's lives. We've never seen a desperate point where they would actually reach out. And these people right now, these Black Lives Matter and all these people are reaching out for nothing right now. Sooner or later, they're going to find something to grip onto. Some of them have already, and that's why we're seeing some violence and some deaths and stuff. But the simple fact is eventually we're all going to get to this point where we just don't understand what's going on anymore. We thought we did. We had a grip on it for a minute. And now we don't have a grip on it anymore. And now it's time to react. And so many people are going to be caught up in the gist of react. What do you mean? Because we've lived our lives in solidarity. I mean, we've been barely free for a little while here, and we don't want to see that normality change. And because the normality is changing right now, we're going to see so many people that are not going to be willing to participate, because they're still going to be willing to deny that this is even going on. There's nothing going on right now. This is all a big joke to a lot of people. Well, I'm not wearing a mask. Okay, cool. But you know what? They made it mandatory. If you don't wear a mask, you can't go nowhere. Well, I mean, who's going to stop that? Unless you get a majority of people to stop doing what they're telling you to do, you're not going to get any place, anywhere, with any kind of movement whatsoever. And as long as the majority of the people in this world believe that there's a COVID-19 out there that's going to kill them, they're going to wear the mask. But I really think that the bottom line of this is if you're putting your trust into Donald Trump, you are so far past where you should be. That means you need to research some more, people. Donald Trump is not your savior, and he is not a victim. By God, he's not a victim. He hasn't even worn a mask. For God to shame him. He hasn't even worn a mask during this entire episode to show no sympathy to it. So he showed to the world, I don't believe in this. Why should you believe in it? So we could go, oh, there's a Q. This is real. Whatever. However you want to do it. But I think Q has been a detriment to this entire program. They've given us false belief that something really is going to happen. That it's all coming out. And then every single day there's a new Q drop that keeps telling us that these people are actually going to try and do something. And we've even heard stories of the unburied kids in Central Park. And then when the Mercy ship left, they had all kinds of thousands of kids that were being abused. And who knows? God, I would like to believe that. And who wouldn't like to believe that? But let's be reality here, people. There's no COVID-19 to the effect that they're saying there is. There is nothing going on other than they're trying to take over your life, people. And they're using Donald Trump to just glide you right in there. Follow Donald Trump. It's going to take you to the land. You had something to say, Mike.
No, I didn't actually. I was just listening to you and encouraging you along. But you're absolutely right here. A lot of people are very confused about what's going on. And it does feel like there's almost no place left that you can stand where you're very certain about where you are. And this goes all the way back to the caller who was talking about, if they start taking apart the Jefferson Memorial or the Lincoln Memorial, that'll mean war. Because if you've grown up in this country, okay, those monuments, whether it's Union, Confederate, Polar product, they're iconic. They form part of our identity. And so when somebody goes on out and they tear down a historical monument that you've grown up with, your brain interprets it as a personal attack. And that's where the anger comes from that leads to a civil war.
And Mike, and that just brings us to where we're at right now. They're erasing history.
Yes.
They've already erased history. Our children from 1999 that were born that got into the school system have no idea that there's any problems with 9/11 story at all, because they were constant narrative and stuff. So our entire generations of people have been changed. They don't even understand why the 50-year-old man is ticked off. They don't understand why the 65-year-old man is ticked off. They don't get it because the 40 man has a clue. They don't get any of this stuff. These kids, they just don't get it because they were sworn to secrecy, so to speak, while they were in school, because they bring that stuff home. I told my kids, just drop out of school. No, one of my kids went and they were telling the story about 9/11 and stuff, and he was in 7th grade or whatnot, 2007 or whatnot. And my son just did under his breath, and excuse me for this, but he went,
yeah.
And he got sent to the principal's office. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
the story is obviously a lie. Everything is obviously a lie. And I think 9/11 is the biggest broad point to the lie, because we've all discovered all these different things that we should be sharing with people about 9/11, but we still allow our kids to go to school and learn the narrative. So we've really destroyed our entire nation is being destroyed by information. And oddly enough, I know Mr. Atheist, you don't agree with this, but in the book of the Bible, it said my followers are destroyed by lack of knowledge. And
Yes.
that might be a nice point that they point out. That's actually a profound statement.
Yes, it is.
Everybody's destroyed from lack of knowledge.
You're absolutely right.
But the thing is that we don't have any common knowledge. That's what's going on right now. I mean, I'm all over the internet. I got nothing but time, Mike, and I could explain that to you some other time. But I got nothing but time but to research. And there's so many different narratives going on right now of what is actually going on, and how we're going towards this ID 2020. Well, it's simple to somebody. Just say no. Okay, fine. They're going to give it to you. Well, no, just kill me then. I mean, whatever. I mean, we were at such a joke in my life. And I can't even explain it to myself, let alone to anybody listening on the radio. I thank you for your time there, Mike. Have a good day.
All right, same to you. We're going to switch over to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Just to expand a little on the last caller, it's the unseen hand that guides that no one even looks at.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of them. They're so like, well, here's Fukushima. We hear anything about it?
No, there's nothing to hear. They can't solve the problem. It's still leaking into the ocean.
Right. They're GE reactors.
Yes.
And GE has their hand in a lot of media.
Oh, yes.
And that's why we don't hear about it.
Nope.
We are being guided by people we don't even know their names. I mean, to say that Soros is, somehow the cause of all this, I mean, it's almost a lie. It goes way bigger than that. There are a lot of lunatics out there that have inherited and or have made a lot of cash and
Yes.
have lost a lot, that have caused so much suffering on this planet. It's insurmountable. And they keep doing it, and they keep getting away with it because, number one, we elect people that are stupid, incompetent, and uneducated. Number one, because we have become stupid, incompetent, and uneducated. This is how it's driven. Education is a joke. I don't even think education shouldn't even be a word anymore. It should just be indoctrination.
Yes.
We're down such a slippery slope here now that I don't even think there's a way back. And it has nothing to do with Donald Trump or Trudeau or Merkel or any of those people.
We're just going to have to let it collapse and be ready to
We're
build it
doing
back
this
up
to
the way we
ourselves.
want it.
Hmm. But people have been so divided and broken down into these little constructs that the whole divide and conquer. Like, how do you find common ground? How do you put these all these little groups together to agree on one thing? This is what's happened to us.
Yes.
We've done it to ourselves by allowing it to happen. So, that's my 2 cents. I don't point my finger at one person. I look in the mirror and point it at me, because I've been complicit in this. I don't use a cell phone, Mike. I don't do social media. But, that's my part.
Yes.
I don't get involved in that stuff. I don't, feed the monkey, as it were. Remember that old cartoon with what was it, Bugs Bunny or something? And they're just jacking that music box, dee 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 dee, and the monkey would go up on all the windowsills, collect the cash.
Yes.
Don't feed the monkey. That's the best thing to do. Just opt out. Don't even vote. But it never happens. We always do the same things. We always continuously do the same things over and over again, expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
That different outcome never happens.
Nope.
So I hope you're feeling better, Mike. I missed, sometimes I race home just to hear your showing, and it's like, where are you?
Well, I'm getting old LD, and I'm dealing with some minor medical issues. And in the case of Friday, we had some technical issues as well, which is a good opportunity for me to remind everybody to please donate to Republic Broadcasting so we can get the necessary equipment to keep on going. Anyway, Al, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. Switch over to Gil in Arizona. Hello, Gil. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Good to talk to you again. Talk about getting old. I've talked to you a few times. I'm 80 years old, and I'm in terrific shape. I ride my bicycle every day, and I had a little victory today. My daughter's disabled, and I'm helping her out, and went to one of the big banks, but they only have one drive-through window, and the bank is closed. So I ride my bicycle. This is pretty amazing. I feel really great. It's about 3 hours ago, believe it or not, today. Mm-hmm. And I stand in line on my bicycle behind the cars, and my turn comes up. And, the little bottle that you put into the plastic tube.
Yeah.
I put her deposit into the plastic tube, and before I push a send button, the little girl on the camera that is looking at you says, you cannot drive up here with a bicycle, and I don't answer. I push the button, and I send the plastic tube.
Yeah.
She sends it back to me and says, you have to be in a motor vehicle, and you have to be wearing a mask. I said, well, first of all, I said, this is a drive-through, and I'm not in a motor vehicle, but it doesn't say I can't use a bicycle. I said, well, and while I'm talking to her, I sent the tube back again to her. And I said, besides, I can't wear a mask. I have a medical condition which prevents me from wearing a mask. She says, well, you need to don't you have a motor vehicle, a car? I said, no, my car's broken right now. So they got the tube back second time, and there's silence for cars are piling up behind me on my bicycle. Yeah. And she says, well, you're just going to have to come back in the vehicle. I says, well, young lady, I says, I'm leaving my bicycle right here, and I'm standing here until you take my deposit. Now, first of all, I'm very anti-mask. I'm very good condition, and I don't believe in them. So after a long dead silence, she says, well, come into the lobby at the front door and put a covering over your face. I go to the front door, and they open the doors.
Gil, hold the story right there. Don't hang up. We got to do a break for commercials, but I want to hear the end of the story. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. Last segment of our program today on this Monday. We're talking with Gil in Arizona, who is at present having a standoff with his bank, trying to make a deposit on behalf of his daughter. And last we heard is you were being allowed into the lobby.
Yeah, let me back up a little bit, though. During that long pause when they were debating what to do with this guy that's blocking the the drive-through aisle, during that pause, I took my cell phone out and pointed it at the camera. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not technically very good at it, so I pretended I was filming and recording everything. So anyway, they told me that to come into the lobby, but I'll have to cover my face if I had a handkerchief. So I went to the door, and they opened the door, the two sliding doors, and they said, you have to cover your face. You know, I said, no, I won't cover my face. They closed the door on me again, and she says, I'll be right back. We'll process your order. They reopened the door about, I don't know, a minute or so later, and she sticks her hand out the door and gives me my receipt. I won, in other words.
Well,
you know, if you speak up, if you speak up, you don't have to do what they say. But here's the key. The medical condition, I cannot wear a mask. And that's, I think, what did it. And on the drive-in, it didn't say, it said drive-in. Well, I drove in on my bicycle. It didn't have to be a motor vehicle. So I think they realized that I was a troublemaker, and I am. So there you go. Nice talking to you, Mike. Glad you're feeling good. And we've been in communication a few times, and I appreciate your show.
Well, thank you very much for the story and for the phone call. We're going to switch over to James in Vancouver. James, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi. By the way, my great-grandfather fought for the Confederacy. I think this is all of this rioting and whatnot that's going on is it's all funded by bankers to begin with, because the economic system is probably running out of money.
Yes.
Or they can't, they can't print anymore or something like that. This is what's going on.
Well, they can print all that they want, but not without debasing what's already out there.
Yeah, I know they can print it, but they get into trouble doing that. And these depressions you mentioned before, and for example, the Great Depression of 1929, there was a deliberate sell-off in the stock market, I believe, by some of the major holders.
Yes.
And I was told that it was done on purpose. So I think that's what's going on. You see, they could spend big money on ads, like for the political party, like the last time Democrats spent a lot of money, didn't do anything. So now they're hiring a bunch of kids to go out and demoralize everybody, and that may be more powerful to swing the vote away from the Republican Party and switch to the Democrats.
Well, the Democrats are desperate right now because if they lose this next election, they're a permanent minority party. Anyway, there's the music. It's time for us to go. Okay. So stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of RBN. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We need your help to stay on the air, as this last weekend's full of hardware problems. It illustrates perfectly. So we'll be back tomorrow, and aloha, America.